Well, at least India is talking about Sri Lanka. Guess who's not? China. China is like that friend your parents warned you about. They land you in trouble, but when you turn around, they disappear. Sri Lanka was the first to fall in this trap. Myanmar could be next. It is the perfect target for China, ruled by a military junta, ravaged by years of civil war and completely ignored by the West. China's grand plan in Myanmar has three parts: political, economic and security. We begin with the politics. Earlier this month, China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi visited Myanmar. His first visit since last year's coup. Now, why is this important? Because every military regime craves one thing, and that is political recognition. China handed it to them on a platter by sending their foreign minister. Just think about it. The ASEAN is calling for a return to democracy in Myanmar. So is India, the United States, the European Union. And what does China do? Send its top diplomat for an official visit. The fact is, China prefers a military regime in power, and I'll tell you why. China has supported and armed insurgents in Myanmar. First, the Communist Party of Burma, then the United Wa State Army. So the people of Myanmar blame China for the instability, for supporting the military coup. Let me show you some pictures. These are from February 2021. After the military coup, protesters gathered outside the Chinese embassy in Myanmar. They shouted, "Shame on you, China." A democracy may not crack down on such protests, but a junta will. Part 2 of the plan is economics. Myanmar has signed on to the Belt and Road Initiative, the BRI. Like the CPEC in Pakistan, there is a CMEC in Myanmar, China-Myanmar Economic Corridor. How much money have they invested so far? More than $20 billion. China makes up 26% of Myanmar's total foreign investments. Same with trade. China is Myanmar's biggest trading partner. Their total share, more than 33%. Today, most of this trade is done in yuan, the Chinese currency. They have shunned the US dollar. In the first half of 2022, bilateral trade topped 500 million yuan. That's almost $74 million. All this money brings a lot of political clout, especially after last year's coup. Since February 2021, the West has imposed sanctions on Myanmar. Aid money has dried up, investments have disappeared, only Chinese money is left. So the junta is more dependent on China than ever before. And finally, part 3 of the plan, security. Myanmar is the longest running civil war in history. More than 135 ethnic groups are involved in it. To fight this war, the army needs weapons. And where does that come from? Again, China. 36% of Myanmar's weapons come from China. They're also giving surveillance technology to the junta, like facial recognition cameras. Chinese cameras are being installed in 10 cities. These can be used to track down dissidents, to identify protesters, to frame charges against them. So not only is China not condemning the junta, they're actively helping in the crackdown. The question is why? What's in it for the Chinese? And to answer that, let me pull up a map. In recent decades, China's coastal provinces have experienced meteoric growth. The reason is exports. The coastal provinces are shipping hubs, so they make money, they grow. But the inland provinces are not. They're lagging behind. So what does China do? Find new ways to connect the inland provinces to sea. Enter Myanmar. China is involved in 2 important Myanmar ports, the port in Yangon and the port in Chokshu. Both are key transit points for the Chinese. Now look how close they are to India. Look carefully at the map. From Myanmar, Chinese vessels can monitor the Bay of Bengal. They could spy on Indian ships. In fact, the end game is even bigger. China plans to dominate the Mekong River area. That's Myanmar, Thailand, Laos and Cambodia. Now this has traditionally been India's sphere of influence. The question is, how can India hold on to it? So far, the policy has been tentative. India has called for a democratic transition in Myanmar, yet India has not boycotted the generals. Reports say India and Myanmar could soon resume overland trade. It was halted 2 years back during the pandemic. Plus, defense trade is booming. Since 2017, Myanmar has been the #1 destination for Indian weapons. Almost half the exports went to Myanmar. So India is striking a delicate balance here. If you condemn the junta, you're giving up your influence. If you don't, you're clubbed with China. And don't forget, India and Myanmar share a 1,600-kilometer long border. if the junta wants to, they can make matters difficult for India. Whether it's illegal migration or the civil war spilling over. So there are no easy choices for India in the neighborhood, not in Sri Lanka, not in Myanmar, not in Afghanistan. Unlike China, India has to balance principles with realpolitik. It may seem like an inconvenience, but it's certainly better than funding extremists and juntas. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.